There's a kind of stillness that only comes with dirt under your nails and the sun warming your back. That's the kind of peace Ellis has cultivated. One leaf, one bloom, one breath at a time. His corner lot sits at the edge of Briarstone Glen, a manicured, upper-middle-class neighborhood, where every lawn is a shade of beige and every porch has matching rocking chairs. Ellis's home is the only one wrapped in color. Lavender hedges hugging the walkway, coral bells lining the fence, and bursts of daffodils like tiny suns in spring. It's not overgrown, not messy, just alive. Ellis, a 34-year-old black man with a quiet smile and a gentle stride, moved here 2 years ago after buying a house from an elderly couple who love plants almost as much as he does. As a freelance botanical illustrator, he spends his days sketching petals and pollinators, and his nights digging into soil therapy. After a decade of surviving the noise and suspicion in the city, this little patch of green suburbia felt like a dream. Or at least, it was supposed to. Neighbors wave, but never quite stop walking. Kids cross the street to avoid the jungle-like fence, then whisper and giggle like he can't hear. He lets it slide. He's used to being watched. He's been black all his life. On Saturdays, he opens his side gate and lets the wind carry the scent of mint and citrus. People sometimes slow down, peek through the fence slats. Some even ask questions. What's that tree with the red leaves? How do you keep your roses blooming so long? He answers with a smile, happy to share. Until last week, a note appeared in his mailbox. No envelope, just a printed letterhead. Briarstone Glen HOA compliance warning. Dear homeowner, you are in violation of Article 12B, landscaping uniformity, and Article 14A, permitted decorative plants. Immediate removal of non-compliant flora is required. Penalty, $100 fine. No name, no signature. Just bolded lines and a deadline. At first, Ellis laughs. Must be a mistake. There's no list of banned plants, and he's read the HOA guidelines twice. Still, he trims a bit here, moves a few pots there. He doesn't want trouble. But the next morning, another letter. This one more direct, more hostile. Your front yard has become an eyesore. Eyesore, like beauty, his culture, his expression, could be something offensive, something threatening. Ellis folds the paper slowly, breathes in the jasmine blooming beside his porch. It's not the fine that stings. It's the message behind it. The message that says, you don't belong here. Not like this. Not like you. He doesn't know who sent the letter yet, but he feels it. The creeping tension. The unease. The vines aren't the only thing growing. Something's shifting in the soil. And it's about Ellis doesn't sleep that night. The garden rustles outside his window, peaceful, soft. But something in his chest tightens like a vine curling around his ribs. He's felt this before. Back in college, when campus cops randomly checked his dorm 3 times in a semester. At art exhibits, when security followed him but ignored the white guy sneaking sips from a flask. This is the quiet before a storm. Not lightning, no thunder, just a pressure drop. By Tuesday, the fine has doubled. No explanation. Just a cold, typed notice folded inside his mailbox again. No stamp, no envelope. He walks his yard that morning with his coffee in hand, scanning every bloom like it might betray him. He counts the potted ferns. 6. The same as last month. The same ones his late mother gave him when he bought the house. Nothing has changed. Not really. Except the notes. And the woman on the sidewalk across the street. She's standing there, arms folded over a clipboard, sunglasses glinting in the morning light. Blonde bob, high-waisted khakis. Pinched expression like she's smelling something sour. Ellis nods politely. Morning. No answer. Just a scribble of pen against paper and a tight turn on her heel. He watches her vanish behind the hedge, a chill sliding down his back. There's no official name tag, no introduction. But he's seen her before, flashing a badge at yard sales, telling kids they can't play ball in the cul-de-sac. The kind of woman who calls herself concerned, but clutches her purse tighter when he jogs past. A neighbor tells him quietly over the fence, that's Karen Dorsey, HOA president, real stickler for the rules. Ellis nods, but the name doesn't surprise him. Of course it's Karen. The next day, the ferns are gone. He stands staring at the empty corner near the fence gate, heart stuttering. No broken pots. No soil spilled. Just vanished, as if someone lifted them in the night. He checks the ring cam on his porch, but the angle is too far. Just shadows. Movement. Nothing clear. He files a police report. They're polite, but indifferent. They're just plants, the officer says, shrugging. Could have been kids. Not much we can do. The word just hangs in the air like poison. Ellis doesn't argue, but he watches the footage again and again, each time pausing at the faintest movement across the street, another shadow, still watching, and a glint of metal. A clipboard? That Friday, another letter arrives. Failure to remove non-compliant foliage has resulted in escalated penalties. Final notice before enforcement action. HOA Compliance Office. Still no name. No face. Just threats in Courier new font. Ellis folds the letter slowly, fingers trembling, and looks out the place his mother's ferns used to be. They didn't just steal plants. They're trying to erase him. And whoever they are, they've just made this personal. Ellis doesn't wait this time. He marches across the street the next morning, fists tight at his sides, letter in hand. The sun's barely crested over the rooftops, but Karen Dorsey is already in her driveway, carefully wiping down her Lexus like she's polishing a badge of honor. Clipboard tucked under her arm. The same one, the same glint. Ms. Dorsey, Ellis calls, voice firm but level. You've been leaving me these notes? She doesn't flinch, just turns slowly, adjusting her sunglasses as if it pains her to acknowledge him. I don't know what you mean, she says, tone sugar-sweet and sharp as glass. I'm simply fulfilling my duties as president of the HOA. All residents are expected to adhere to the community standards. He holds up the letter. There's no name, no official citation number, just threats. Karen shrugs. We've received several complaints. Your yard is, well, becoming quite unkempt, jungle-like. It's lowering the value of neighboring properties. Is that so? Ellis tilts his head. Because my yard is clean. My plants are healthy. And everything I've added is within code. She smiles, too wide, too bright. Code is flexible. We reserve the right to interpret aesthetic disruptions. Aesthetic disruptions. The words curdle in his ears. She doesn't say black. She doesn't have to. Ellis walks away before his hands betray his temper. But inside, something is already cracking. He returns to his house and opens his laptop. If they want to play games, he'll play too. That night, he rewatches the security footage, frame by frame, enhancing the contrast. At 3:41 a.m., a blurry figure crosses his lawn. Hoodie, gloves, a woman's build, and just barely visible, that damn clipboard. It's not proof, not enough, but it's close. So he installs a second camera. Hidden, infrared, trained on the garden path near the missing ferns. Then he prints the HOA guidelines again and highlights every line. No maximum number of plants. No banned species list. No requirement for uniformity beyond general curb appeal. He makes copies. He starts a file. A week passes. The second camera catches her. Plain as daylight. Karen Dorsey, 3:14 a.m., tiptoeing along his walkway like a ghost in khakis, tugging at a potted aloe with both hands. She stumbles, curses. The camera catches everything. Even the license plate of the car parked with its lights off at the curb. Ellis doesn't go to the HOA. He goes to his neighbor, Manny. Manny, a retired mechanic in Puerto Rican Data 4, has lived in Briarstone for 20 years and never been invited to a board meeting. He listens without interrupting, then frowns deep. She did the same to me. Said my driveway flags were too aggressive. My wife had to remove the Puerto Rican one, or face a fine. They sit at Manny's kitchen table. By the time Ellis leaves, he has 6 names, 6 stories, 6 people, Latino, Asian, Black, who've all been cited, harassed, fined, or silenced. It's not about plants. It's about control. It's about who gets to be seen as belonging. The next morning, Ellis files a formal complaint with the city's Housing Oversight Division. He attaches the footage, the notes, the neighbor testimonies. He also sends a copy to a local news station, just in case. Then he waits, and as he waters his hibiscus under the sharp stare of Karen across the street, he smiles for the first time in days. Because now he has roots. Now, he's not standing alone. And Karen? Karen just stepped on the wrong. The HOA meeting is held in the Briarstone Clubhouse. Fake colonial columns, dim lighting, folding chairs set in tight rows like it's a courtroom for petty grievances. Ellis walks in wearing a black button-up, calm, composed, camera tucked in his pocket, evidence folder in hand. Manny sits beside him. Behind them, 5 other neighbors of color, quiet and watching. Silent roots in the room. The air is electric. At the front, Karen Dorsey, wearing a pale lavender blouse and a smug expression, like she's preparing for a coronation. The board members, all older and white, flank her like sleeping guard dogs. She bangs the gavel. "Let's begin," she says, eyes flicking toward Ellis like he's gum on her shoe. First order of business, the ongoing plant violations at 122 Maple Lane. She doesn't look up from her clipboard. "I'd like to address that," Ellis says, rising slowly. Karen barely hides her smirk. "Mr. Ellis, this is a board matter, not open mic night. You received 6 citations. You're in violation of the code regarding excessive foliage, unapproved landscaping, and obstruction of sightlines." Obstruction of sightlines? He almost laughs. Instead, Ellis clears his throat. According to the HOA guidelines, which I printed for everyone here, he holds up the documents. There is no clause regarding the number of plants on private property. No species restriction. No policy on sightlines unless it involves pedestrian safety, which it doesn't. Karen scoffs. "Well, the board reserves the right to issue aesthetic corrections as deemed necessary." "Interesting," Ellis replies, "because it seems these corrections are only ever applied to non-white households. I've compiled photos of other homes in the neighborhood with equal or greater landscaping, none of which have received warnings." He passes the photos to the nearest board member, who flips through them, brow furrowing. Karen's smile tightens. "This isn't about race, Mr. Ellis." "No." He raises an eyebrow. "Then explain why you entered my yard without consent at 3 a.m. The room shifts. Heads turn. Someone gasps. Karen stiffens. "Excuse me." He taps his pocket and projects a still image from his phone. On the clubhouse screen appears a grainy frame from the hidden camera. Karen, crouching beside his ferns, clipboard under arm, face lit by moonlight. She blinks, opens her mouth, closes it. Ellis steps forward, voice steady. "I submitted this footage to the city's Housing Oversight Division, along with 6 witness testimonies, along with proof that you falsified HOA citations and enforced policies that don't exist. I've also contacted the Briarstone Beacon, who found your previous role in another neighborhood's HOA and the discrimination complaints that got you removed there too." Karen goes pale. This is taken out of context." She stammers. "You people always..." "You people..." Manny echoes behind Ellis, rising to his feet. Karen's face collapses. She realizes the board members are no longer looking at her. They're looking at the screen, at the footage, at the woman they trusted, exposed with dirt-streaked gloves, yanking flowers in the dark. Ellis doesn't smile. He doesn't gloat. He just turns toward the board. "All I want is peace, and my mother's garden, and for this harassment to stop." Silence. And then one of the board members clears his throat. "We'll be suspending Ms. Dorsey from her duties effective immediately. This meeting is adjourned." Karen shouts, "You can't. I built this neighborhood." Ellis meets her eyes. "No," he says quietly. "You try to own it. That's not the same." Karen doesn't go quietly. She slams her clipboard on the podium, shrieking. "This is a setup. He edited that video. He must have. I have authority. I'm the acting HOA president." But her voice is shrill now, cracked, not commanding, but desperate. The board stares in stunned silence, except for Mr. Halbert, the treasurer, white-haired and soft-spoken, who now scrolls through Ellis's folder files. These time-stamped warnings you issued, some of them are backdated. They're not. He holds one up. Karen, this is a date 3 days before your visit to the house. How can you cite a violation before you discover it? The room shifts again. Karen sways, eyes darting like a trapped animal. She turns to the audience. You all know what this is. He's turning this into a race thing, just like every other complainer who moves in and thinks they can do whatever they want. Enough. Halbert snaps, louder than anyone expects. You lied to this board. You abused your authority. And you made it about race the moment you treated his plants like a problem and the neighbors like a feature. Karen's lips tremble. I was trying to maintain standards. A door opens at the back of the clubhouse. A woman in a city badge steps inside, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. She walks with measured steps, face unreadable. Karen Dorsey? Karen stiffens. I'm investigator Linda Price from the city's Fair Housing Division. We've received multiple reports of discriminatory practices under your tenure. And this footage, paired with written affidavits and documentation, was enough to open a case. Effective today, you're under formal investigation for harassment and falsification of civic code violations. Karen recoils like she's been struck. You're investigating me? You don't understand. I have every right to enforce the rules. Not when you invent them, Price replies coldly. Not when you disproportionately target homeowners of color. I gave this neighborhood order before people like him came in and started planting jungles. She gestures wildly toward Ellis, and it's the last nail. The crowd recoils. Even the board members now look disgusted. The air hums with shame and electricity. That's enough, one officer says, stepping forward. Karen tries to backpedal. You can't just believe his word. He's manipulating everything. You don't even know who he is. Oh, they know, Ellis says quietly. I'm the one who turned my yard into a neighborhood favorite. The one who drew in visitors, brought in families, and gave this place some soul, while you tore down roses and called it justice. Price nods. Mr. Ellis has also filed a civil complaint, and your previous HOA history in Windermere Heights has been reopened. Karen's face crumples. No. The officers approach. I'm not being arrested, she hisses. This is my community. I made it what it is. No, Price says. You try to shrink it into something only you could control. As they escort Karen out, her voice echoes through the room like a dying storm. I was right. I was always right. Outside, a crowd is gathered. Neighbors with strollers. Teens on bikes. A couple who lives next to Ellis, holding hands, watching quietly. Someone films on their phone. Karen shrinks at the sight. Ellis steps into the doorway behind her. For a moment, she turns to him, eyes red with hate and fear. He says nothing, just watches as a woman who tried to uproot his peace is driven away. The jungle stayed rooted, and so did he. A week later, the same mailbox Karen once stuffed with citations now overflows with city notices. Only this time, they're addressed to her. Fraud, harassment, HOA misconduct. The city's website lists the ongoing investigation under public record. News articles use words like racial profiling, abuse of power, and pattern behavior. Her face, red, wrinkled with disbelief, is frozen in a still frame, mid-shriek, circulating all over neighborhood message boards. She's become a meme, a warning, a pariah. They say she fled to stay with a sister in Arkansas. Her house is quiet now. For sale sign crooked in the yard. Lawn brown. But here, the jungle lives. The community gate opens wide on weekends now. Children dart between palms and bamboo stalks. Couples take selfies beside the koi pond Ellis built from salvaged concrete and a busted pump. Local artists hang dream catchers from the hanging vines. A welcome to the Refries Garden sign stands tall at the edge of the yard, crafted from driftwood, etched in flame. And under the shade of a jacaranda tree, Ellis finally breathes. For the first time in months, his hands are covered in dirt just for joy, not defense. Didn't think you'd go viral, laughs Carmen, the neighbor from 2 doors down. She sips sweet tea beside him, glancing at her phone. Someone posted the board meeting footage to TikTok. Over 2 million views. They're calling you king of the concrete jungle. Ellis chuckles softly. Catchy. You really showed her. He doesn't respond right away. Just watches a toddler in a yellow onesie wobble toward a patch of lavender. I didn't just want to show her, he says finally. I wanted to show them. All the folks who think we don't belong in spaces like this. Who think peace is something they get to own. Carmen nods, face soft. Well, you did. And then some. Later that day, the HOA elects a new board, one with community oversight, one that includes Ellis. A new rule passes unanimously. No citations may be issued without full-bore review and documented justification. Another motion proposes transforming part of Ellis's garden into a shared space for seasonal markets. Neighbors who never spoke before stopped by with baked goods. Apologies, awkward jokes. Some admit they didn't step in when Karen harassed them. Others confess they once thought his plants were too much, but now see the beauty. Even Halbert, the treasurer, visits with his granddaughter. She calls this place the secret garden, he says, smiling. Want to paint it. Ellis nods. Let her. It's hers too. One quiet evening. After the last guests leave and the garden hums with crickets and wind chimes, Ellis kneels at the foot of the tallest tree in his yard. A weeping fig he planted months ago when he first moved in. He whispers something to the soil. Not for anyone else. Just the roots. A prayer. A promise. A thank you. Because despite everything Karen tried to destroy, something beautiful grew in the cracks she left behind. Not just plants, but power, community, and the unshakable truth that he belonged here all along. The jungle didn't just survive her storm. It thrived.